So Lizzo is staging what I would probably describe as the comeback attempt. She It's been a minute since that like drama and controversy with the backup dancers has happened. She has come back. She's been doing interviews with, Kiki Palmer, with Z-Way, with the Breakfast Club. She is, bringing out new music. She's attempting to go the viral path with some of her music and possibly might be changing her sound or experimenting with her sound again. And I have thoughts. I'm going to ask the class, do you think that this comeback is going to stick? Or is this comeback just not going to work? Let's talk about it. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Cake Radio Show. I'm the Cake Diver. I hope you guys are ready for another slice of cake because today we're going to be talking about Lizzo, the comeback attempt, and if this attempt is just an attempt that's not going to work, or if this is going to be a successful attempt. Before I get started, I do have a change to announce. So if you've listened to these Cake Radio episodes in full, which I sure hope you have, you probably know at the end of videos I would talk about the fact that you could subscribe to the YouTube channel where you get episodes before anywhere else. Starting today, that is changing. If you listen to the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms, whether that is Spotify podcast, Apple Podcast, Deezer, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere that you can listen to a podcast, Pandora, we're also on there as well. You actually will be getting these episodes first. Episodes I'm doing kind of a little bit of an experiment to see if, there's a preference that, if we start prioritizing pushing episodes more on other platforms before we get to the YouTube version, if people will listen to it and tune into it more on those platforms, or if YouTube is just the place where the girls are giving it at. Which, what isn't surprising, you do get the added visuals, you do get the ability to comment, which you don't really get out on any other platform outside of like Spotify. And you also miss out on the visual outlet. So going forward, we're going to start pushing the podcast platforms that are not YouTube a little bit more. But YouTube is always the home. You're always going to get the added visuals, and you're always going to get that extra oomph. And this change is only applying to the Cake Radio Show. Any other projects like Icons or Talk Talk will still release next day on podcast platforms. We are just doing this test with the main Cake Radio Show. That's all I had to say on that. Let's get back to the tea. So as you guys know, Lizzo has been coming back with, the things. Like, she obviously had the moment with the backup dancers, the allegations that happened with that. It seems to be a little bit unresolved because it didn't follow up on court. Court case kind of stopped her, got throughout. Some of the dancers kind of came forward and said that they were lying. Whether I believe that they were lying or not remains to be believed. And Lizzo kind of hasn't really she's kind of done the more traditional follow-up responses to it. She kind of laid low after the controversy happened, and after she issued like a notes apology or like notes response to the situation. And once the court case kind of stalled, she then has she kind of teased coming back, doing like TikToks and stuff like that. When like South Park and stuff was making fun of her, she would come back and like post about it, leaning into it. And now I would say she's kind of back. She has been doing, I guess, sort of like a press tour, like apology tour, talking about the situation. She did it with Kiki Palmer. She kind of has also hit some other stops as well, promoting music that she's rolled out. She has had new music coming out. She's popped on the Breakfast Club. Her most recent interview, I believe, was with Z-Way. And again, as I mentioned before, she's had 2 singles come out from what I'm assuming is going to be her next studio album, which is the 2 songs being Love in Real Life and Still Bad. And we've also had some other things pop up since, but I want to start with this. So for starters, you have like the interviews, and I have tuned into some of the interviews just to kind of see like how she is moving. Like, is this the same Lizzo that we had back before controversy, like back during like the special era and that type of stuff, or is this like a newer Lizzo? Like, has the controversy and stuff kind of changed her a little bit, or like changed how she's moved? And honestly, I feel like the only difference that she's had is that she's just kind of a little bit more annoying, respectfully. But overall, like a lot of the way that she's still talking about music, the way that she still talks about like her past music and stuff like that, she is still like pretty much the same. Like she hasn't really changed too much. Um, but listening to the some of the interviews and watching the interviews and like seeing a lot of the interviewers kind of like ask her about the controversy and stuff like that, you can tell that like she either has had a PR team or had her like legal team consult with her, or she just like straight up refuses to fully address the situation, because the responses have always been like very like it's very PR. Like she hasn't like done anything like she's had done in the past in which it's like, well, this is what happened, this is the truth, and like if y'all don't believe it, y'all can kiss my ass type thing. It's always been like a, I kind of don't really want to talk about that, but let's kind of like address, let's kind of address it, and address it as little as we can, with, and then move on, kind of, because that's not what I want to talk about, which is fair. Like she kind of wants to move, she doesn't want to move behind the situation, but a lot of people, especially the public, do feel like the answer was still unclear, the action was still unsolved. A lot of people like didn't hear the conclusion to the case because of how it ended, it being essentially thrown out. And there's a lot of people who like still believe that Lizzo is like did the things that she was alleged to have done, and then there's also a lot of people who like don't believe it, but aren't, and there's also the unsures as well. Where are my gays? Where's my straights? And where are my in-betweens? Do we have some in-betweens? Like, it's giving that. And then we have the music, of course. So, for starters, we've had, like, the studio singles. And now we also have, like, rap songs and rap remixes, which I will delve into because that's kind of what pushed me to being like, okay, I have to do an episode on this. Because I've been wanting to talk about the comeback attempt for a while, ever since, like, the studio singles like Still Bad and stuff came out. But now we have more information, and now we have more, like, I have more thoughts, and the final thoughts was like, oh, like let's talk about this rap stuff because it's an interesting thing to do. She had Love in Real Life, which had 2 songs in it. It was like Everything Was So Much Simpler. What was it called? You could tell I didn't listen to this part, but it was called like Everything Was So Much Simpler. Love in Real Life. Everything Was So Much Simpler was like the intro to Love in Real Life, and then you have Love in Real Life, which was kind of like a pop rock-esque kind of sound. And then you have Still Bad, which Still Bad Still Bad was the song that I actually listened to in full. I never listened to Love in Real Life. I only heard snippets, but I heard Still Bad in full. The problem, well, what the issue that I wanted to talk about the first time I wanted to talk about Lizzo was that when it came to the studio songs, the new studio songs for what's most likely going to be her like next studio album, it hasn't been sticking. This first half of the comeback attempt hasn't been working because of the fact that like the music sounds like a worse version of what we've already gotten. And I think she's also been aware of that as well, because I saw a clip of the Breakfast Club interview that she did, and she was talking about the process of, what it takes to make a song. And she was and I'll probably put the clip in here, but she was talking about how basically, it's you and it's the producer. You and your producer are going back and forth, making changes to the song and stuff like that. And then the label also steps in and asks for changes to the song as well. And, the song can have several changes before you, the listener, can get the final version that you hear.
the
And she
A&R process with
basically
music that people
said,
might
and
not be privy to, but you write a song in a studio, the A&R comes through, they go, okay, fix this, rewrite this bridge, the production needs to be more like this. And you're like, okay, and you sit in with the producer and you work on it. About Damn Time took like 7 months and there were like 1,000 versions. So with Still Bad, we did the same thing. By the time we were done with Still Bad, and this is really how I feel, and sorry to Atlantic Records, but by the time I was done with Still Bad, I was like, this is just another About Damn Time. And I looked at Ricky Reed and I was like, does this sound like About Damn Time? And he was like, no, no. And I'm like, yeah, from a sonic level, it's different instruments that take the lead. It's a different BPM. It's a different key. It's more indie sleaze. And I was like, I'm gonna trust y'all on this.
interviews that Still Bad was going to sound completely different than what it was, but the producer in the studio, in the, the label basically changed it to sound very similar to some of her previous songs from like the special era. And she like asked her, she questioned her, she pushed her producer and questioned the producer about like, does this sound similar to what I put out before? And they're like, no, they gaslit her. And you listen to the song and it sounds like stuff that she's put out before, and not in a good way, because it doesn't. When you would want something like a comeback album, you kind of want something that gives you a little bit of oomph, a little bit of a push. Like Girls Been Run Up, my video on Mariah's comeback with Type Dangerous, and with that song, it literally feels like a modern version of old Mariah, like of the Mariah that you. And when I say old Mariah, I mean like Mariah has never changed, but it is the song. It sounds like a lot of the songs that like you you come to expect from Mariah, a lot of her hits and stuff like that, with that modern oomph to it. Like it sounds familiar in a tasteful way, and it also sounds like something different, in which it's like, okay. And even if you like don't like the song all that much, like you can still appreciate that Mariah is going to what works, and that's a good thing. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. Lizzo and the team, I'm gonna kind of blame this more on the team than Lizzo, because with that interview kind of suggests that it was out of Lizzo's hands. The songs sound too similar to what we've already gotten, and that's not going to work, because people are going to want something that is like a little bit more raw, a little bit more stripped down, a little bit more like a little bit more of a callback to like her indie days before she really became like a hit. Like remind the fans that like have rooted for you and supported you all this time, like go to them and be like, hey, y'all remember why y'all was fucking with me. Now let me give you that back. But the little like watered down like studio stuff that she was giving was special because she was getting popular, and the white people were like sinking their teeth into her, and tuning into like the like body positivity branding type of stuff like that. It's not gonna work because the white people have like tuned out. It's kind of like a Will Smith, Chris Rock type thing, in which like the white audience has pushed away for the most part, and you really need something to bring them back and like remind them that like, oh, you loved me for a reason in order for it to work. You can't half-ass it. I mean, Will Smith has tried. He's done a few acting roles. Only thing that's really gotten someone on like him on lock was like Bad Boys with the acting side of things. And then you have like that weird stint with the music that high key was a recession indicator, and listening to freestyles and stuff like that. And I'm like, what the hell is this going on? But it's not talking about Will Smith. We're talking about Lizzo here. And then you also have her response to the songs and like how people have reacted to the songs. People have not reacted to like the studio songs positively, by the way. I've seen a lot of people like react negatively to it and be like, oh, like no one heard that Lizzo was dropping. Like they were kind of giving her like the Lil Nas X effect, in which like, oh, like Lizzo is dropping and like nobody knows that she's dropping, or like people know that she's dropping and they're just like, I'm not like she can't be serious with the way that she's publishing this song and stuff like that. And Lizzo has not responded well to it. Lizzo obviously has been online, because that's kind of where she got a lot of her fame and a lot of her popularity, especially when she like rose to fame. But she's one of the celebrities that's like almost too online. It's one of the celebrities, and I've talked about this before, even with like people like Chloe and Halle, in which like they have been online to a concerning degree, and like people have been able to pick up that like, oh, if you talk about, you know, Lizzo or somebody else, like one of these other celebrities in, you know, the online internet, you know, social media sphere, there's a good possibility that that the celebrity is gonna see it and the celebrity is gonna react. Mind you, a lot of these celebrities are on social media and they do see it, but there is like the show and don't tell like method of, and I've talked about this before. Like it's always important to, um, like like tastefully tell your audience that like you're paying attention to what they're saying, because like if they know that like what you're saying to them gets on your nerves, they're gonna just add more fuel to the fire, start being nastier and nastier, and then you're like, I can't do this type thing. Um, that's why when Beyonce, that's why when Blue Ivy was like back in the Renaissance tour, when Blue Ivy was doing the performances and stuff like that, and people were like online being like, oh, like she like why are they putting Blue Ivy on stage? Like she can't perform, like she's like terrible performing this, that, and the third, which by the way was really weird because that's a little girl. She was starting to like improve and improve and improve and stuff like that, and people fell in love with her. And then you saw in the Renaissance documentary how Beyonce was talking about it, and she was just like, I legitimately wish that like Blue Ivy did not have exposure to that, and like I wish that she didn't see that. But it was definitely like a blessing that she started like improving, and like proving herself and wanting to be on the stage more and more. And now the girls love Blue Ivy. I was at the Renaissance tour. I saw, well, not the Renaissance tour. I was at the Cowboy Carter tour, and I saw the girls was gagging, losing their mind over Blue Ivy. Um, but when you get back to Lizzo, right? Because we gotta bring this back. Lizzo was not tasteful about it, because it wasn't like, oh, she's silent, or she's kind of making tongue in cheek responses and she's improving the music. She hasn't really improved the music at all, but she is responding online. She's been on multiple rants on Blue Sky and on Twitter, talking about like, first she was posting on Blue Sky, she was like getting her Blue Sky account popping, and the girls was like questioning her and stuff like that, asking her questions and stuff like that. And eventually she moved over to Twitter, and she was like, oh, the people on Blue Sky ran me off, and was talking about like ranting about the music, like, oh, like she legitimately like named like responded to a tweet from someone who was hate tweeting her, and was like, clearly you don't listen to my music. She was talking about like how she sees herself as like a generational talent, which no, and I'll dig into that. And like she was just going on these weird rants, which like as a celebrity you should not do, because that's a red flag. Everyone's looking at you weird, and now people are gonna make fun of you more, because it's like, girl, remember when you was doing this? Like this was weird. Like that's literally what I'm doing in this moment. I'm kind of making fun of her, being like, why was you doing this in this moment? That was weird. Um, and then when I say that, like, oh, she's not a generational talent, I just feel like it is almost she's in a similar boat that Lil Nas X is in which they got popular and they went mainstream too quickly, to the point in which like when there was a hiccup in their career and they had to start over again, um, they thought that going mainstream again was the route, and that was not the that was their third strike out, and they only get, and I say third strike when it was only one strike. They only really had, well, they only have like one or two strikes, to be honest. Like they kind of have three strikes actually, now that we think about it. You see how I'm not, like my brain's just kind of like with this. But anyways, with like Lil Nas X, you had like J Christ, which everyone was like, what the fuck is this? Like it's the same shit over and over again. We don't like this. And then he came back again, strike two, with Light Again and like the other like Need That Boy, the other singles. And then there's like the big break in between, and I was like, to the point in which some people were suggesting that, like even I suggested that the album was canceled, or that they were scrapping the album, he was redoing it. And then he like put out a bunch of songs that were like for the EP, like it was like an EP before Dream Boy album was supposed to drop, and nobody listened to it. Nobody really knew that it was coming out. Strike three. He's done. They just going to drop the album and have him like start over, or let him at the contract, let him at the label because it's not working. And then with Lizzo, you have strike one was these allegations, of course, and obviously like how she responded to it, how she handled it. Strike two was the studio songs for this new studio album that we're probably gonna get. That was strike two, and her response to that. I feel like strike three is the rap music that she's doing. Now, don't get me wrong, she has done rap music in the past. So, like, based off of what I've said before, she's going back to a sound that a lot of people were clicking with beforehand. So, like, by what I said before with Lil Nas X, appealing to the indie audience and reminding them that, like, oh, like, this is why you fucked with me in the beginning. So, by my words, that should work, right? I haven't really seen it work just yet. It remains to be seen. This might be a strike three. This might be strike three, y'all, because she kind of came out with like a freestyle of that one song that was viral, Whim Whammy, and it was back during that time in which like everybody wanted to be on the remix, and there was like some drama that was going on between the original artist, which was kind of leading to like who like there was like who was gonna be on the remix. It was like, oh, like Sexy Red ended up being on the remix, but like Lotto was gonna end up being on the remix at one point, but it was scrapped. And then of course Lizzo like did a freestyle version of, you know, like her version of that track, and it kind of went a little bit viral. Like some of the like the girl, well, it went viral in the sense that like people were talking about it. Like people were like, oh, like Lizzo can rap. Like there's people who didn't know that Lizzo could rap because they didn't know that she was doing that back in the day. And then there's also people like talking about like, oh, like she is like really desperate for attention because now she's going back to like this. And recently she has teased a new song. She's kind of like going back to that vibe, it seems, but I kind of don't know like how she's gonna like push that. Like, is she just gonna do like the R&B girl method in which she's like, oh, we're just gonna like release like these R&B songs for free type thing and not do it through the label and like hope for the best until like the label's like, okay, let's do this, or like gets picked up by another label and she goes that route, or like is she gonna convince the label to push the rap music instead of like that weird like the R&B stuff and the pop stuff that hasn't been working. Remains to be seen. But I'm also seeing that like a lot of the girls are not falling for the R&B, not the R&B. I keep saying R&B because like I be listening and talking about the R&B stuff, the R&B girls, the rap stuff. It remains to be seen if people are listening and care about the rap stuff. Like I'm seeing people will be like, oh, like she's targeting, she's doing the rap stuff because she wants to target the black audience because the white audience doesn't care anymore. Which like, clock that tea. The white people are not listening to the new Lizzo songs, but hey. But it remains to be seen as to like if this is gonna be the thing that like gets people to like support Lizzo again, or if this is just another fluke. Like if this maybe her like hit era was like just, you know, lightning in a bottle, and maybe she's just in her flop era. Who knows? Because people have said that like Lil Nas X and them is in their flop era. That's and that and third. But I think that we will wait and see. I don't know if the R&B I don't know if the rap stuff is gonna be the route necessarily. I feel like she could have just went back to like the older like pop sound that the pop R&B sound that she was going with back in the day, and like really going with that, or even just like she could even do like a sound similar to what she's done with Special, but be a little bit more emotional with it, because with songs like the two studio singles that she's put out, it feels like very overproduced in the sense that like you could tell that she's wanting to talk about the situation. She wants to make songs about like this situation, the drama, but it feels too dated. It feels too like disingenuous as well. Like if the songs feel like, and that's another thing with the older the studio music, like with Still Bad and that type of stuff. Those songs feel like they existed within this older era of music that like we have moved past. Like it still exists in that like 2010s, early 2020s body positivity, like liberal era in which like we were all like, oh, like we are supporting body positivity, like we are supporting the things, like this is the things, like it was going, like it was in that like very ultra positive, like we're not going back type energy. And slowly but surely we have gone back. So in this era in which we have gone back, in which body positivity is like disappeared completely, everyone is, back to like making fun of fat people, unfortunately, being fat phobic. We're in the era of Ozempic. Lizzo has also lost weight, and a lot of people are also looking at that as a disingenuous thing, which I think is bullshit. I think that that's just a catch 22 that people do to fat people and fat people who have lost weight. Um, and like we've gone back to this weird like kind of liberal but kind of conservative era, like being liberal cautiously era, and like being like ironically conservative to like conservative downtrend that we are witnessing right now because of a lot of things. So like the music that she was putting out feels like it's from a completely different time, and that's not the music that we need right now. It's like not Liz. Everyone's like not right now, Lizzo. So like the rap stuff seems to be a little bit like leaning into like what's a little bit more modern. She's still kind of in her bag with that, but I don't think that that's what like. I think that people will like that music, but I don't think that that's what people want to listen to Lizzo for necessarily. So I think that that is going to be something that could cause a hiccup. I don't see this sticking. I think it's going to be the third strike, and she's going to have to start completely from scratch. That's just my opinion. But we will wait and see. We will just wait and hear what the girls got going on. But that's my thoughts on Lizzo and this comeback and everything in between. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Cake Radio Show. Be sure, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you, thank you for supporting. And if you want to see the visuals, because you are the visuals, and you want to get that added context and stuff like that, and you also want to get access to more additional content as well, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Cake Radio Show. And, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about the Lizzo songs. Did you like the studio singles like Still Bad and Love in Real Life? Did you listen to the rap songs and like the remix? Do you like either of those? Do you prefer one over the other? Do you feel like Lizzo's gonna have to do a complete rebrand or like lean more to the rap music? Do you think she's going to start from scratch with the pop stuff? Like, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, either on Spotify or on YouTube. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Again, big things coming up. We're starting to make some changes and experiment a little bit more with things. And I'm just excited to lean back into that. But I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.